Ladies and gentlemen, listen to me carefully. There are prisons without bars, and many people are living inside one, not because they lack money, but because they lack mindset. You can take a rich man and strip him of everything, and he will rebuild. Take a poor man and give him everything, and he will lose it. Why? Because wealth is not first in the bank. It is first in the mind. Today, I came to wake somebody up. I came to deliver a word, not about money, but about mindset, about identity, about the invisible patterns that shape our destiny. The battlefield is not your bank account. The battlefield is your thinking. There are people in this room who are one idea away from transformation, one decision away from a new life, one mindset shift away from the breakthrough they have been praying for. You don't need more opportunities. You need a new operating system. You don't need more connections. You need clearer convictions. You don't need a bigger salary. You need a bolder vision. Today, we are going to break the mindset that has held generations captive and unlock the mindset that builds empires, produces leaders, and attracts abundance. If you're ready, somebody shout, I'm ready. Why? A rich mindset sees possibility where others see a dead end. It's not about being unrealistic or ignoring challenges. It's about refusing to let challenges define what is possible. When a person with a poor mindset encounters a problem, their first reaction is often shut down. I can't afford it. I can't do it. I don't have the resources. I don't know how. Their language becomes a cage. Their beliefs become chains, and their imagination becomes silent. But a rich mindset approaches the same obstacle with a completely different spirit. Instead of saying, I can't, they say, how can I? That question opens doors. It activates creativity, resilience, and resourcefulness. It forces the mind to search rather than surrender. When you see possibility, you move differently. You take steps that others are afraid to take. You experiment, you explore, you stretch yourself. The rich mindset is not born from wealth. It is born from curiosity and courage. It looks at uncertainty and says, there is something here for me. When others walk away because the path is not clear, the rich mindset leans in and starts carving the path. This mindset sees opportunity hiding inside problems. It sees growth inside struggle. It sees a lesson inside every failure. That's why people with this mindset rise. They don't rise because everything works in their favor. They rise because they believe there is a way, even when the way hasn't revealed itself yet. A poor mindset is conditioned by fear. It seeks safety, approval, and comfort. It wants guarantees before it takes steps. It wants clarity before commitment. But life doesn't give guarantees. Life gives chances. And the people who take those chances, who step out even when the ground is shaking, are the ones who discover possibilities that others never see. A rich mindset embraces uncertainty as a teacher, not a threat. The greatest tragedy is not a lack of money, but a lack of belief. Belief gives birth to ideas, and ideas birth new realities. When you shift from I can't to how can I, you invite solutions, partnerships, ideas, strategies, and breakthroughs into your world. Every great invention, every business, every transformation started with someone who saw possibility where the average mind saw none. The rich mindset is a lens. And once you change that lens, the whole world changes with it. A rich mindset understands that every action is a seed and every seed has a future. People with this mindset don't just look at what something costs. They look at what it can become. They think in terms of growth, expansion, and long-term return. When money enters their hands, the first question is not, what can I buy? But what can this create? They invest in skills and tools, in relationships, in knowledge, in opportunities that multiply over time. This mindset knows that money sitting still is money dying, but money planted wisely is money that works for you even while you sleep. On the other hand, a poor mindset is rooted in consumption. It is driven by the need to satisfy the present moment instead of shaping the future. The focus is on comfort, entertainment, and immediate gratification. Instead of asking what something will produce, the poor mindset only asks how it will feel right now. But feelings, trends fade. Impulse purchases fade. The poor mindset tries to fill an inner emptiness through spending, but that emptiness grows because consumption never creates, it only drains. A rich mindset thinks like a builder. It looks at an online course and sees a new skill. It looks at a book and sees wisdom. It looks at a mentor and sees direction. It looks at savings and sees the foundation of freedom. It looks at a business idea and sees potential impact. It knows that investing can feel slow, quiet, even thankless in the beginning, but the harvest always comes. Investing is an act of faith in the future, an acknowledgement that today's sacrifices shape tomorrow's abundance. A poor mindset often fears investment because it requires patience, discipline, and delayed gratification. It prefers what can be touched immediately, even if it disappears just as fast. This mindset doesn't realize that the greatest wealth is often invisible at first, growing quietly beneath the surface. Just like seeds underground, every wealthy individual you admire built their life not by consuming everything they had, but by consistently investing what they had. They understood that small investments done repeatedly become massive returns over time. The truth is both mindsets receive the same 24 hours, the same opportunities to choose the same moments when money comes in and leaves. But one plants while the other spends. One focuses on growth while the other focuses on comfort. And over the years, these tiny differences become destiny. A rich mindset creates a future. A poor mindset consumes it before it arrives. A rich mindset understands that the mind is the greatest asset a person can ever own. It knows that every breakthrough, every opportunity, every level of success begins in the mind long before it appears in reality. That's why people with a rich mindset make learning a lifestyle, not a duty. They feed their mind with books, mentors, courses, conversations, and environments that stretch their thinking. They seek wisdom the way others seek entertainment. They understand that every new skill increases value, every new idea expands perspective, and every piece of knowledge becomes a tool that can be used to build a better future. A poor mindset, however, treats the mind casually. It prioritizes entertainment over education, escape over growth, distraction over development. Hours are spent consuming content that doesn't build, stories that don't teach, and habits that don't elevate. The poor mindset is more comfortable being entertained than enlightened because entertainment is easy. Learning takes effort. It requires humility, openness, and discipline. Growth asks you to face your weaknesses. Entertainment helps you ignore them. That's why so many stay stuck in cycles that never change, because they spend their time feeding the mind pleasure instead of power. A rich mindset is constantly upgrading itself. It believes that the more you learn, the more you earn, not just financially, but mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. People with this mindset walk into every room asking, what can I learn here? Who can I grow from? What insight can I take away? They recognize that one idea can transform a career, one lesson can reshape an identity, one mentor can redirect the entire trajectory of a life. Learning is their investment, and their mind becomes a bank filled with strategies, perspectives, and wisdom that compound over time. Meanwhile, the poor mindset often assumes it already knows enough. It clings to old beliefs, outdated habits, and limited understanding. It takes constructive criticism as an attack instead of an opportunity. It believes knowledge ends at school rather than beginning there. But life rewards those who evolve, not those who remain the same. The difference becomes visible over years. The person who learns keeps rising, while the one who entertains stays in place. The mind becomes what it repeatedly consumes. If you feed it growth, you rise. If you feed it distraction, you drift. A rich mindset chooses learning not because it is easy, but because it knows that the life you desire requires the mind to match it. A rich mindset understands that responsibility is power. It recognizes that the moment you take ownership of your life, your choices, your habits, and your outcomes, you step into the driver's seat of your destiny. People with this mindset do not waste energy blaming circumstances, parents, the economy, or luck. They understand that while you may not control everything that happens to you, you always control how you respond. And in that response lies your freedom. When something goes wrong, they ask, what can I do to fix this? What can I learn? How can I grow from this? That question shifts them from being victims of life to creators of life. Responsibility becomes the doorway through which strength, confidence, and progress enter. A poor mindset, however, is fueled by blame. It constantly looks outward for excuses. It says, if only this person helped me, if only this didn't happen, if only life was fair. This mindset believes that someone else is holding the keys to its success. It transfers power to circumstances and people who may not even be thinking about it. When blame becomes a habit, growth becomes impossible. You cannot change what you refuse to own. And because a poor mindset never claims responsibility, it remains stuck in cycles where nothing changes. A rich mindset owns its mistakes openly, not because it enjoys failing, but because it understands that mistakes are stepping stones, not tombstones. Every misstep becomes a lesson, and every lesson becomes wisdom. This mindset says, I did this, I allowed this, I chose this, and now I can choose differently. That level of honesty activates transformation. When you stop hiding behind excuses, you begin building a life based on truth, discipline, and intentional action. A poor mindset avoids responsibility because responsibility feels heavy. It requires introspection, humility, and the courage to admit, I need to change. Blame is easier. Complaining is easier. Pointing fingers is easier. But easy paths rarely lead to meaningful destinations. Every time blame is used to escape responsibility, potential is lost, doors remain closed, opportunities pass by unnoticed. Over time, the difference becomes unmistakable. People with a rich mindset rise because they take charge of their choices, responses, and behaviors. They understand that owning the problem gives them the right to own the solution. They evolve because they confront their weaknesses instead of defending them. But those with a poor mindset remain where they are, trapped by the very excuses they created. Responsibility is not a burden, it is the birthplace of power. Once you accept that your life is in your hands, everything begins to change. A rich mindset sees life through the lens of the future. It understands that every choice made today echoes into tomorrow. People who think this way are not living only for the moment. They are building for what is ahead. They plan, they prepare, and they position themselves with intention. They know that meaningful success requires time, patience, and delayed gratification. When faced with an opportunity, they don't just ask, what will this give me today? They ask, what will this become in 5 years, in 10 years? This mindset measures decisions not by immediate comfort, but by long-term value. It is strategic, disciplined, and anchored in vision. It understands that consistency, not impulse, determines destiny. A poor mindset, however, is driven by the urgency of now. It focuses on what feels good, what looks good, and what satisfies the moment. It seeks quick results, quick wins, and quick comfort. This mindset wants transformation without time, reward without process, and harvest without planting. It often falls for shortcuts, get-rich-quick schemes, and short bursts of motivation that fade overnight. Because the focus is on the immediate, there is little thought given to how today's habits shape tomorrow's reality. It spends the present without considering the future that is being sacrificed. A rich mindset understands that long-term thinking requires discipline. It means turning down certain comforts today so you can experience greater freedom tomorrow. It means choosing to save instead of spend, to build instead of impress, to learn instead of lounge. It means putting energy into dreams that may take years to materialize. People with this mindset don't get discouraged by slow progress because they are committed to the journey. They know that every brick laid today becomes part of the foundation for the life they are constructing. Their patience becomes a power. Their vision becomes fuel. Their consistency becomes the quiet force that separates them from the crowd. A poor mindset avoids long-term thinking because it requires discomfort. It requires saying no to impulses, resisting distractions, and confronting the reality of one's habits. Thinking long-term feels heavy because it challenges the ego and interrupts pleasure. It asks for responsibility. It demands focus. So the poor mindset remains reactive instead of proactive, responding to life instead of shaping it. Over years, these two mindsets produce completely different outcomes. The person who thinks long-term slowly builds stability, opportunity, and abundance. The person who thinks only of now remains stuck in cycles of urgency, stress, and survival. A rich mindset sees tomorrow as a place worth investing in. A poor mindset sees tomorrow as too far away to matter. But the truth is, tomorrow always arrives, and it always reflects the decisions made long before it came. A rich mindset understands that relationships are one of the greatest forms of wealth a person can build. It recognizes that the right people can open doors that money cannot, offer wisdom that experience alone cannot teach, and provide support that makes heavy burdens feel lighter. People with this mindset see relationships as bridges to growth, opportunity, learning, and influence. They invest time, respect, energy, and authenticity into the people around them. They nurture connections not for personal gain, but because they understand that strong relationships elevate everyone involved. They know that when you add value to others, value eventually returns to you in multiplied form. A poor mindset, on the other hand, is shaped by survival thinking. It is often focused on protecting what little it has and fears that someone else's success threatens its own. It views relationships through the lens of competition instead of collaboration. This mindset tends to isolate, mistrust, and withdraw. It sees people as rivals instead of resources, threats instead of partner. It rarely builds meaningful connections because it is too busy guarding itself, comparing itself, or resenting those who rise. As a result, it stays disconnected from the very networks that could help it grow. A rich mindset approaches people with curiosity and humility. It asks, what can I learn from you? How can we help each other grow? What can we create together? It understands the power of mentorship, collaboration, and community. It is willing to be surrounded by people who are smarter, further ahead, or more talented because it knows that proximity to greatness is one of the fastest ways to grow. It sees relationships as opportunities to expand horizons and exchange value. This mindset believes that everyone has something to offer and that meaningful relationships are built through contribution, not competition. A poor mindset often avoids or destroys relationships because it cannot see their long-term benefit. It may hold on to pride, ego, jealousy, or insecurity. It may refuse to ask for help, thinking that seeking support is a sign of weakness. But the greatest weakness is isolation. No one climbs without a ladder, and no one grows without a circle. The poor mindset fails to understand that every breakthrough in life, every job, every partnership, every opportunity usually comes through people. In the long run, the difference between these two mindsets becomes striking. The rich mindset grows because it builds alliances, communities, and teams that elevate its journey. It understands that collaboration creates abundance. The poor mindset remains stuck because it tries to succeed alone, fueled by fear instead of connection. The truth is, relationships shape destiny. And when you build strong ones, you're not just building wealth, you're building a life that lasts. Ladies and gentlemen, hear me before you leave this room. Wealth is not a number, it is a nature. It is not something you chase, it is something you become. If you shift your mindset, your life will shift with it. You are not trapped by your past. You are powered by your potential. Stand up in your spirit and declare that your thinking will no longer limit your future. Walk out of here with a renewed mind, a renewed vision, and a renewed expectation. Your breakthrough begins the moment your mindset changes. Somebody shout, "Memamendaya Sifti ING."